Hello! New broom. Broom, 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 broom. If you see the wonder of the fairy tale, you can take the future, even if you fail. Thank you very much, everyone who's following my story. I had a bit of an issue. I was a good musician, but I lacked the self-worth to realise my own musical potential. Anyway, I've had lots and lots of good experiences recently, including playing in Winchester Cathedral on the 5th of September 2024. I provided ambience at the private view of a series of sculptures in the cathedral, an exhibition, and my electroclassical guitar was plugged into their sound system, and it was heard throughout the cathedral from speakers high on the wall. This was a great pleasure. It was a professional performance, and I got a good fee for doing it. And when the Dean thanked everybody for coming, and the caterers and the organisers and the artist, she said, "And I mustn't forget Nina Rideau and her beautiful classical guitar playing." At which point there was a spontaneous round of applause. Thank you. The performance was highly validating and encouraging for me to play in Winchester Cathedral. They contacted me out of the blue through my website. I've also played 4 lunchtime concerts in Romsey Abbey, nearby Romsey, and I've done 2 evening recitals, classical guitar recitals for Romsey Festival in 2021 and 2023. My background. Well, unfortunately, I hardly spoke to anyone at school. I didn't make any friends there. I often sat on my own and didn't say anything. In fact, whenever I tried to speak, people would look at me and look at each other and say, "What did you say that for, Nina?" I never could say the right thing at the right moment. I never knew what to say. As a result, I didn't share with anybody. I didn't have friends I shared with. I just was extremely isolated as a child. This followed on from a breakdown my mother had when I was about 4, so there was a precursor to that too. It was a very lonely experience in my childhood. I just loved to play my classical guitar. I started when I was 10, and I just loved to play the instrument. I had a very, very good grounding in classical guitar playing and weekly lessons in my childhood and teens. In my adult life, I wanted to see if I could do it professionally. But I struggled with confidence and self-esteem to take that forward. In particular, I was very nervous of other people. I still couldn't talk to people confidently, approach people, assert myself. Didn't know what to say in the right moment. There it was again, right thing at the right moment. I didn't know how to do any of that. And I was very, very nervous talking to anybody. Anyway, I got very good at playing my classical guitar in my adult life without going to a conservatoire, because I did some summer school, some private lessons, and also did a lot of listening to my own recordings and videos, and constructed my playing from that, put it together from that. That's where I'm at with my musical career. I had to take a pause in the pandemic because actually I was not performing in a confident way. I was not a confident performer or person, and I had to build my self-esteem and self-worth in all sorts of other ways apart from playing in public to get myself in a better place. Anyway, the other day I went to a weekend course entitled, and it was a lovely experience, and I learned an awful lot about the music industry and how it works. Thank you. I also went to a conference recently, Independent Society of Musicians, which I'm a member of, and also had a very good experience there. Fundamentally, my house was built on the sand. I had all this musical ability, but it wasn't on a good foundation. As they say, a wise man builds his house upon the rock. Unfortunately, my house was on the sand. I was flying with audiences with my classical guitar, just smashing it really. I just didn't feel comfortable in myself, confident of myself. Speaking to people was a particular problem. Speaking to other people verbally was a particular problem for me, face to face. As I say, where words fail, music speaks. Quote by Hans Christian Andersen. Anyway, I am building my house on the rock. No more house upon the sand. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. The wise man built his house upon the rock. And the rains came tumbling down. And what happened to the house on the rock? It stayed fast. It stayed in place. I will manage this career in some form or other. Now I'm finding my self-confidence, and that's absolutely wonderful, regardless of what happens with my career or whatever happens in life. Finding my self-confidence, the biggest prize there is, and I'm so grateful. Thanks.